So, hello, good evening, Asma. It's lovely to see you.
Same here.
It's a few weeks since we had a chat, isn't it? And we decided that it would be fun to sort of look at the work that you do, the specialist work that you do, and how it integrates in the happy brain model, but particularly to focus on the topic of neurodiversity, which it's a mega topic at the moment in the world, isn't it?
Oh, yes, it is.
About it. It's become a bit trendy, hasn't it? There's a sort of scramble for people to get diagnosed and
Mm.
labeled and things like that. But putting that aside, you are a great expert in this field, and it would be really cool to have a chat about such things.
Mhm.
I thought for a little while this afternoon, I thought, I wonder what kind of questions come up ahead of us meeting. And one of the questions I had for you was you yourself,
Mhm.
neurodiversity, you have, and you work you as a therapist in the world of neurodiversity. But thinking about you specifically, what do you wish that the younger you knew?
Hmm. To be honest, I think knowing no matter what needs you have, with the challenges and its strength, because I have to add both there, as long as you have the right support environment and knowing the right tools you can use, you will accomplish whatever you put your mind to. I generally believe if I knew that beforehand, there's a lot of other challenges, potential regrets that happen that I know would have been different.
Really?
Yes.
Hmm. When were you first aware that you had neurodiversity? Because it wasn't such a trendy thing, was it? So,
Yeah, due to being diagnosed dyslexic, I think I was 15, 16. I was in high school. And, through that, it comes with this set, its strength and challenges. However, about 3, 4 years, give or take, I was starting to become aware about that I'm autistic, potential ADHD. However, officially it was 2 years ago I was diagnosed. I will say I'm a late diagnosed adult.
like so many are.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, what we know from, particularly as we teach in Happy Brain, we know that the mammalian brain part likes, above all else, to feel the same as others.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you were at school, did you hang out with people who you felt comfortable and familiar with, who were like you, or did you feel different?
To be honest, very good question because I've been reflecting quite a lot, thinking, am I genuinely autistic or ADHD? That's another story for another time. When I was in Prague, 'cause I came from Sierra Leone, the school's slightly different from here. So when I was in school in Sierra Leone, potential primary here, potential we'll say junior. I did have friends. However, when I really looked back, I won't call them friends, if that makes sense. I was more hanging around them playing. Until now, I keep looking back. I had very, very small selective of people I used to hang around with due to they accepted me for me. They didn't come to me, they want something. And I was mischievous when I was in school. Done the done certain things for the right reason. However, I've done it in the completely wrong way, which, for example, justice and fairness are key to me. And I'm glad because that's how my parents brought us up. That when I see injustice, I will speak out, or however, I'll speak out in a term that you shouldn't speak out, if that makes sense. So from there, I'm like, okay, something wasn't right. However, I didn't feel any. different because it was my belief and value, which still today it is. When I came to high school here, that's when I started noticing, but again, I put it down as you were aware, potential trauma, potential, language barrier. So yeah, I did hang around with people, and again, I had very, very selective friendship. I was much of outgoing, hanging around with a lot of people. So yes, I felt way different. Well, I didn't acknowledge it, if that makes sense, because I believe I did acknowledge it, it would have gone both ways. However, with the tools I've learned from NLP, Happy Brain, and all of my other modalities, I think I would have enhanced it a bit more to empower myself. So yeah, so I did feel difference, but I'm like, that's who I am. I came from Sierra Leone. It's cultural difference. That's what I put it down to, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's such a key point that we're trying to make sense of our world all the time. So that's
Mm-hmm.
what we do, isn't it? We just keep trying to make sense of what our experience is. Um, Something I know that you and I have both spoken about is the in our work
Mm-hmm.
and in our own personal experiences is the topic of masking.
Yeah.
That sort of starts in childhood, doesn't it? Where you learn to present yourself in a way that's acceptable to the outside world and often even to the family.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak to masking, what that
Yeah,
topic?
I mean, to be honest, it's going to be quite a lengthy way of describing it, and I'm going to describe it from my understanding and my view. However, there'll be well, it's factual. However, there'll be some scientific factual to this as well. We all mask, even from a baby, we teach them to say please, thank you, sit, stand. And also there's cultural masking. So you know that some countries, due to cultural belief, you can't look them in their eye. Some you have to. In my culture, I was taught you have to look at me to listen, or it's rude. So for me, that's so that okay, I need to mask because I hated looking at anyone. So obviously, due to cultural stuff, no blaming anyone is a cultural belief. I mask looking at people and really trying to listen and follow instruction. We do things in cultural aspects, religion aspects. We mask all the time. However, being neurodivergent, masking is similar in a way of understanding that, but also it's even more. We mask to fit in. We mask to be accepted. We mask for people to understand us, if that makes sense. So, we'll laugh at the joke we don't get. I honestly find jokes really hard to understand because of my literal thinking, sarcasm. Sometimes I have to, as they say, bite your tongue. I have to bite my process before I speak. So I have to mask all of that. And masking, it can be very, very detrimental to your well-being because you're pretending using a lot of energy, that is quite exhausting and it does lead to a lot of um, potential suicidal aspects, mental health, depression, and so on. So that's why it's quite high on neurodivergent because we mask 24/7. When we're out in the environment, we have to manage the crowded place, the lights. That depends on the needs of the individual. I have to make that clear. This is my experience that I mask all the time. So so now I know I must. I choose when I should and shouldn't mask. So, for example, at work, I mask. However, I will say to my colleagues, actually, I'm going to go and have 5, 10 minutes going for a walk because I've learned to say I can do that. So that's okay. I'm releasing that mask, being myself, go and stim if I have to, play my games if I have to. So that's a different way of looking at it. We all mask. How can I put it? I mean, I'm going to use an example, okay? I bet you've pretend you've been with somebody that there might be mutual dislike, but you're going to be polite and accept it and, agree to come to it. That's masking, if that makes sense.
I'm not sure. It's interesting your definition of masking because it kind of
Mm,
isn't quite the same as mine.
Okay.
There's an overlap because some of what you're talking about is programming. So we have
Yep.
cultural programs that we run, the please, the thank yous, the eye contact, or not, and so on. So those are automatic programs that we run. Um, I think masking comes when there's a dissonance, there's a cognitive dissonance between
Mm-hmm.
what you ought to do and what you want to do. So maybe what the program is telling you versus what, let's say, your authentic self is telling you. And the we see in small children them kind of putting aside their own needs and developments, sort of stepping out of them in order to stay accepted within, say, a family
Mm-hmm.
or a social group. And I think that's where masking gets gets established. So they learn to not tune in to something deeper, that when you're really aligned, when you're in your authentic self, there's not a lot of energy required. And it's interesting you point out how exhausting it
Mm-hmm.
can be to be masking. Yeah, that
Yeah.
I as a trainer, I used to do these really big full-on training programs, and then I had to go to bed for a week afterwards because I was exhausted,
Yeah.
because I tried so hard to be this person, um, and to work the room and so on. Now I don't, and my
Mm.
energy is way too precious. And if I feel myself moving out of my authentic relaxation place,
Mm-hmm.
and then the question comes up, what's pulling me or pushing me? But I didn't know that as a younger person, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, my eagerness, certainly as a teenager, to be the same as, well, that's how I learned to smoke and drink alcohol, and go with, be the one who got the popular boyfriend, and things like that, because it's like, whoa, this is what the tribe's doing, and I want to be just the same as
Yeah.
that. Off we go. So, but to your point about some of that programming
Mm-hmm.
is so subconscious that I just wonder if there's a nuance between subconscious programs
Mm-hmm.
and masking, because I think, as you say, masking requires a big energy. And that's why we hear so many people say, as you say, I just got to get some time out. I just got to get
Mm.
away from people.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is. I mean, the way I see 100% is programming, and the reason that's why I brought cultural aspects. So, not every neurodivergent, for me, eye contact is a huge thing. When I look at somebody, I generally cannot process or listen unless I'm comfortable. And so, but however, I was taught all of my life, you have to look at me. So, and then I used to realize I used to get a lot of trouble. So I learned to do that.
Yeah,
Now, so I learned a form of masking and programming. Some people, yes, 100%, when, programming is a thing, it's a cult. But because the society have got a specific way of this, it causes those natural masking. Or, for example, another way of masking that I till today I do it. I've learned to say, actually, you don't have to. Anyone walks in the room, I stand, because in our culture, you stand for the elder person to come in. So 100% is a form of programming. When you're neurodivergent, you're not comfortable to do that. It's not a natural thing for yourself. It's really hard because when I get up, I'm like, okay, now what do I do? Do I sit? There's a lot of self-talk happens. I can't speak for neurotypical if that happens because I haven't got their brain. So I have to then say, get up. And then I'm like, oh, what do I do now? Do I sit? Do I go and sit? So I've learned just to get up and walk away. Because I've learned how to master that now, I will get up and sit to them. There's the seat. I'm going to go and walk away. So it's a good programming, but I've learned to unmask it, I don't get up every single time like an automatic robotic kind of movement. And I feel okay with it. I know now I've got a choice. I can stand and I couldn't stand. And you know what? I don't have to fit in if I don't stand for any elderly. I'm choosing to.
Yeah.
Before I used to do it to fit in my culture,
Yeah.
no matter what. So hopefully that's explained it.
Mm, mm. Yeah, that awareness of what the inner world is doing and experiencing is very valuable, isn't it?
Mm, they're definitely, it's a very, very huge thing. And, fitting in the community, going out, clubs, I did it. Did I want to? No, I just did it because I have to fit in, because that's what everyone does,
Mm,
wear like what people wear just to fit in. So all of that is huge, huge. Masking is massive. The main thing I'll say here, it's not one universal umbrella. It's unique and specific to the individual. Because what I might be masking, another autistic person might not be masking it.
mm,
And their feeling of masking is still slightly different. However, it is detrimental to mental health, especially if it's done subconsciously,
mm.
which again, that comes to in the form of programming, just because it doesn't align with who you are. So it's a really fine subject. And honestly, I would like to dig more into it because I like to see if there's coloration, there's differences. As you know, the brain fascinates me.
Yeah, I think as you're speaking, what's coming to my mind is the subtlety of well of so many things really. I'm thinking about the sensory processing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm thinking about I always take in my brain, let's create a gold standard of the most resilient, healthy human being. I mean, they don't really exist, but do you know what I mean? It's just like what would that look
Mm-hmm.
like? So just as a contrast,
Mm-hmm.
I think a little benchmark exercise. And what we aim for, what I aim for in my work with young people, is to give them the skills and tools to know that there is programming, to know that there are rules, social compliance rules and safety rules and so on, but to also be able to feel inside their own like soul calling, their own wisdom, their own, do I feel moving towards that person or that thing, or do I feel I want to move away from that movement, energetic movement? I want them to tune into it, to find it, to tune into it, and then use that as a feeling of certainty so that they better navigate the world. And when you were talking a few moments ago, is that oh, am I doing this right? What should I do? Should I, that's moved aside from
Mm-hmm.
what do I want to do? What feels right and authentic for me? And there are lots of reasons why we get that dissociation, including trauma and a whole range of reasons. As
Yeah, and there's something I will add, and this is I'm guilty of it, and that's why now I'm quite conscious. But students I used to work with, and again, it's a cultural thing of saying please and thank you. But most of the children I work with, they don't understand the reason of please and thank you. And we used to teach them to say please and it means nothing to them. So they were just saying please and thank you because it's a word. And I'm like, why do we do this? What do we do this for? And then we realize when they know and they understand it, it comes naturally to them and that's more meaningful or when they have to apologize because they've hit me but who are they apologizing for? So
yeah,
again, that's how I start thinking, okay, this is, if we're teaching them in the form to must say please and thank you because that's how they're going to have their biscuit, or is this genuinely we're teaching them what's right or wrong? and what is the authentic, so they can be the authentic self and able to learn those skills. So that's when I start thinking about the programming and different ways of implementing things.
Hmm. Yeah, because I think they're two separate things there. There's the
Mm,
socially accepted P's and Q's, please and thank yous, that are just good manners, and that helps relating in
hmm
in the world. Um, and also finding a genuine thank you is a great dopamine boost. So it's
hmm
actually a feel-good boost. But the bit where you talk about um, uh, um, saying sorry for having hit you, that's a different thing. I feel very, very strongly about not making a kid say sorry.
I'm with you.
I,
I'm so with you.
it's, why would you teach a child to lie to itself?
Yeah.
Because that just sets up all sorts of future problems, mental,
hmm
emotional resilience, and so on. So, if there is an authentic, oh, I'm really sorry in the aftermath, then that's beautiful and that should
hmm
be rewarded. And it's like, oh, I really appreciate that. But it has to be truthful and authentic.
100%.
Not that we used to have a joke in my family where one of my kids would go, sorry. Yeah, that tone of voice. Not really working. There's an anger in there, isn't there?
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you on that.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So yeah, coming back to the sensory processing,
hmm
um, you talked about being in an environment where if you're forced to have eye contact, that in some way interrupts the way that your brain processes the information around you, because your natural brain would want to use your visual input in a different way.
hmm
And I absolutely understand that. I find if I'm in a busy or stressful situation, I know I can parachute in anywhere and cope with anything. I've got all the skills. That's easy peasy. But truly being present in the moment is not always available to me because everything is in handling the scenario. So my metaphor to myself, much less these days, but still sometimes, is afterwards I can go back into the whole experience and then use my sensory channels. What did I see? What did I hear? What did I smell, taste, touch? Um, but in the moment, there's too much, it's too busy, too
hmm
whizzy, there's too much information. It's stimulation overload. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
It does. And to do with the sensory processing as well, I'm going to use myself an example. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I do that. I reflect and go back and see. However, when somebody I'm not aware of or close to or comfortable with, when I do give eye contact, it's like my hearing is gone. I will see every movement of the lips,
Yeah.
the eye, everything's on their faces. And like, okay, how long do you look at somebody in the eye for? How long do you break it? When do it's like auditory volume in my head has gone 10 times higher than it should be.
Yeah.
And it's repeated and really fast. And I'm like, okay, I cannot focus anymore. So it's definitely a sensory overwhelming as well.
Mm. And the happy brain model that I created largely in the early days was as much about me understanding how my brain and the brain of my kids and my clients and students work, and that what happens when there is a disruption in the sensory input channels.
Hmm.
is absolutely fascinating because there truly is a scramble. Yeah, I guess what I want to go on to say is, so we get this sensory information through our channels.
Hmm.
Got preferences, haven't we? So some of us process more visually or auditory or kinesthetically or whatever. Um, but all of that information is available. Staying clean and pure about this, the input data is the task that
Hmm.
NLP teaches us how to do that, that stay factual um, and process driven, as opposed to what it means.
Hmm.
So yeah, that calibration of, oh, look at all those micro expressions in that face. Whoa, there's a lot of incongruence going on over there. No idea what it means, but that person is really incongruous, as opposed to, oh, they're lying or they're cheating or they're angry, or that when we apply the meaning, that's where it goes astray. Yeah. Yeah, fascinating. Something else you mentioned a little bit back, Asima, was sometimes when you're peopled out and you go off and you stim. What's your stimming?
Oh, very good question. To be honest, it varies. Everyone stims differently. I sometimes will be pacing up and down, not all the time. I used to walk a lot on my tiptoes. I'm trained to walk flat feet now, or whatever word you want to call it. But when I notice, oh, okay, I will walk on my tiptoes because I need that pressure feedback coming back in. I click my knuckles quite a lot. I'll be twiddling with my hair. Um, Sometimes I rock, sometimes I hum. It's called verbal stimming. So I will hum, make really funny noises, and I'll, what on earth are you doing, Jacob? you know. And sometimes I actually do intentional self-talk and singing. So especially I know when I'm anxious or start feeling anxiety, I was like, okay, those are the signs. Weirdly enough, there's no rhyme or reason. I was sing nursery songs. Seems to just re-regulate, and that's I realized. Oh, that's it's regulative tool. However, I do it also to stim
Yeah, yeah.
with the
Actually,
humming.
they're the same thing, aren't they, really? Stimming is self-soothing,
Yeah,
isn't it? It's a
yeah.
way of the body and nature being so magnificent, helping people to
Mm.
bring themselves into either to discharge stress or to bring themselves into a better regulatory
Yeah,
system.
it's also due to show, again, depends. It's an excitement kind of communication. I'm really excited. So some children will show stimming in a different way, So yeah, but for myself, that's how I stim.
Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking about a little boy who would just flap his hands and make really high-pitched noises and tongue thrusting and all sorts of things. And
Yeah.
those are just signals to the adults, aren't they? That needs a little regulation. So
Yeah, definitely. It's also understanding what he might be trying to block out. Is it the light? So
yeah,
is it the noise? So it's knowing individual, you're aware to know, okay, what, as you know, behavior is is a communication. What are they communicating?
yeah,
But yeah, so it's a good thing when you know the reasons of why you stim, because you can
yeah.
able to use it even more.
And I wish I'd known about this as a young parent, and I wish other parents knew about it. I remember one of my kids, every time we went to a shopping centre, would be really, really out of sorts. You would be outrageously badly behaved as we thought at the time, at the age of 2 or 3. But actually, it was just the sensory overload. But he became so disrupted. And yeah, we just didn't know, didn't
Yeah.
understand. Um,
Well, I mean, we knew a lot now, don't we? I mean, even though we know a lot, there's still a lot of things needs to be educative in a way of like, I'm gonna say this, which you are aware, you don't stop stimming. Stimming should not be stopped unless there's a risk to yourself or others. However, you can redirect the stim because it does need to happen.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know families where the grandparents have their own form of stimming.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's not.
Humming is a good one, isn't it? So yeah, my second question I wrote for you. Actually, I think we've probably covered some of that. Um, what I'll ask it anyway and see if there's anything else that comes up. But the question is, what do you wish that all neurodivergent brains
Hmm.
understood about themselves and about?
To be honest, I think to know that it's just our brain is different. It works differently than other people's brain. However, we we are as unique, as strength, empowered, just us being us, and we don't have to be like what other people expected us to be. And I think I want them to know to accept themselves and know they are okay, they are who they are, and they have got the skills. You just need to find a way of learning those skills to be able to flourish, to be honest, and reach their goal.
Hmm. It's one of the very first principles in the NLP framework that I wholeheartedly embrace and regularly repeat, which is you're not broken. You don't need fixing. You're totally unique and precious as you are. And that's always my starting place
Mhm.
with anybody that I work with. It's that you are an organism operating as best you can at this moment in time. Yeah, maybe we can optimize things. Maybe we can, set about some so-called improvements if
Mhm.
that's called for. But how do you do you uniquely? And there's something beautiful to celebrate in the uniqueness of every human being. And that's where I sort of part company a little bit with the trend of getting a label. Because for some people, labels are helpful and do get the right help to get the right support. But for other people, it's limiting
Mhm.
and it becomes an excuse. I can't do that because I can't have my I don't know bedroom rearranged because I can't stand to have anything changed in my life. Well, we know that good mental health involves being able to cope with change and uncertainty. So there are ways to help that organism to begin to adapt to change and
Mhm.
uncertainty, for example. So yeah, that total uniqueness, I find that fascinating. Um,
Yeah, and also it's that the society is not developed or aware about the neurodivergency because all of our brain, as the saying goes, when you see one autistic person, you've seen one autistic person. There's no two alike. The society is not equipped for that. So we're not broken. The strategies that we've learned to use needs to be changed and adapt to meet our needs. And I agree with you. A label can go both ways. I believe seek your diagnosis for you and what you believe it's going to support you and your own decision. Because for me, I see it as having an answer, finding a name. And the way I always say to all of my clients, when you go to a supermarket, this, you want to buy painkillers, you're gonna which one's paracetamol, which one's not. So me knowing I'm autistic, then I know, okay, the light is too much. It's because my sensory needs is overwhelmed. I need to do this instead of I'm going, is it this? Is it that? It's about understanding it. However, yes, it can go completely both ways of It's what you do for you, isn't it? And to benefit you without causing harm to anyone else.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a beautiful goal, to get to know you and get to do you
Mm.
authentically, whatever that is. Yeah. Well, my third question, actually, I put some other little sub questions down which I want to jump to. Um, of all your clients that you've worked with, who, not not naming anybody, but who has inspired you maybe the most, but the one that pops up as being an inspirational
Hmm.
client because of the way that they have maybe responded to your work or overcome adversity or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, with all the work I've done in my business and not, I will say every single one of them has inspired me and really made me want to become an even better person, to be honest. However, there's this one particular adult I worked with who was not able to leave the house in any way or form, not due to also sensory overload, autism, and few other aspects. However, when we start working, his way of thinking, his way of managing, I'm like, wow. I wish somebody understood you from the beginning, able to show you these things that you can manage outside. And he wants to go out, but he's terrified if he goes out and have a meltdown, he's going to hurt somebody, so he doesn't go out. So he was protecting the world from him. And all of this, I just looked, till now, I'm having goosebumps because he's been through a lot of experience I don't wish upon anyone. And after all our work and everything, we did went out. It's huge for him. For me, it's like, okay, it's a tiny step. For him, it's massive. We went out to the park next to him. And then he just sat down and just looked, he went, this piece of cake. Tomorrow I'm going to Brighton. And he literally went to his car tomorrow. I didn't go with him, and he went to Brighton.
Wow.
And he texted me to say, you know what? If I do have a meltdown, I know what I need to say to them. Just show them the card, say, don't approach me, leave me alone. Then I will come and talk to you later. Just that tiny change in reframing his thinking. And I was like, I wish I'm like you, because honestly, Kay, sometimes it takes me weeks to plan to build the courage to do things, and
Yeah.
he's got it. So till today, when I think about him, he genuinely, seriously gives me goosebumps.
Yeah. There's so much in what you're describing there that once, somebody breaks through a limitation that
Mm,
held them in chains, then the world's their oyster, really, isn't it? And the
really
fact that
is.
he even had a backup plan of, well, do you know what? Even if I do have a meltdown, I've got a plan to deal with it. Um, uh, yeah, wow. That's super.
No, he's a it's credit to him. He did it. I have to give him that.
Well, that's true. I think in our work with all people, that it's not we don't do it. We might facilitate change, we
Mm,
might lead them,
yeah.
but they're doing the work. And yeah, that makes marketing our work a lot harder because actually, I think, and I believe this absolutely, if we're really good at what we do, the client owns it and said, well, yeah, I have changed. Not,
Mm,
oh, she or he has changed me. And I
no,
think
I agree.
that's good work. That's really good work. But what's the youngest client that you've worked with?
In my business, I will say, oh, it's a very good question. I think 7, 6 or 7, yeah. I mean, to be honest, I really should know because he goes and comes back for different things. I've had him for a few years. Yeah, I think 6 or 7 is the youngest. For my business, before from that, I've worked at 5 years old, 4 years old, but in my business is that.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your favorite age of client?
If you want an honest answer, I don't think I do. Right? Because I don't know. Everyone comes in with their own
Mm.
kind of authentic self, and I'm like, yeah, okay. I generally don't think I do because I've worked with 18, and sometimes the words I hear just makes me giggle.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think I have any preference to be frankly honest with you.
And what would be the top three most common um, problems that people come to you with?
Yeah, emotional regulation, 100%, which will cover part of the sensory needs. And I've had anxieties quite high, managing anxiety and phobias.
Hmm.
Those are the three.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and there's a lot of anxiety in the world, isn't there? It's kind of coming from all angles. We've got the internal anxiety
Hmm.
because of viruses, pathogens, unhealthy foods, um,
Hmm.
and so on, and then the social pressure causes a lot of anxiety, doesn't it? You need to look
Yeah.
this or this. Do your clients get caught up in the screen time?
To be honest, some do, yes. Some is a regulative tools, and some, yes, is very, very unhealthy.
Hmm.
Kind of obsession it has to happen. So I have both ways. Sorry, I have client that it's both reason. Some of them is to do with the EPSA, emotional based school anxiety that not physically able to attend school. That screen time might be something they need to regulate themselves with to be able to do that. While some is I only know screen time because it's the only thing I know. So yes, I do have both.
Hmm. And what's your view on how the screen time interferes with brain processing?
To be honest, I've got both view. Yes, it's not healthy due to all the uh, PG, the PGs. I can't remember the name. The spikes of the brains and all of that. However, it's gauging if it is a regulative tool, understand what is causing the regulativity and why do they need it before you start implementing strategies because you're taking that tools that they know how to regulate themselves with and you're giving them more sensory overload. And what I'm still researching this, I'm not 100% more factual on this. However, when it comes to neurodivergent, the impact is different than neurotypical of how screen time affects the brain. It still does in some ways. It's not as much as neurotypical. But again, I don't know if this is fully factual yet. I'm just, reading and researching. So when I understand the reason behind it, I implement the strategy. So one of the main strategies I always say to parents, let the child know they can go to the screen whenever they choose to. They can pause it, it's not finishing, and create a routine throughout their schedule to have breaks in between. So, okay, now we're going to go and play football. Then you can come back and have your screen time, or we're going to go and do this. And also, it really depends what screen time, what are they watching, what are they doing. Obviously, the online safety comes into it and all of that. So it's quite a big thing because I'm guilty. I used to be completely against it, and I saw some of the children I've worked with that it was the wrong tool kind of strategy I was teaching them. Then I realized to say, okay, it's understanding what's the reason behind it and how to support them better instead of my own belief screen time is really bad. No, it's not going to happen. I had to reframe that. It depends on individual.
And talk a little bit more about screen time as a regulatory.
Hmm. Well, a lot of neurodivergent children I've worked with and adults is when they're on screen, let's say they're playing a game, it's cutting out all of the surrounding noises. Yeah, all of the sensory needs. Therefore, you will see some children and adult will have three or four different devices that's on because they know what's happening, what noise it's going to make, how the picture's going to change. So they're in control. It's not unexpected change. And because they've been in trying to adapt in the society, there's a lot of expected change. I know if I sit and talk to Kay, I know what she's gonna do when she's gonna smile, how she, or you. So it just causes our brain to go, "This is my safe space." Also, I'm not listening to any of the background noises. I'm focusing on here. So that's how we can regulate lots and lots of children and adults, and that generally can be used as a huge advantage as well. It can be huge learning tools if it's used correctly.
Mm,
However, it also can dysregulate student because some student doesn't know when to stop. So when it's too much, then all of a sudden you're seeing a meltdown, or if they're playing a game and they loses. So it's working with knowing how long they're regulated for before it becomes a dysregulation, or is it dysregulating even more because it might not be the screen, it might be because I've lost the game on FIFA. It's understanding that and able to put the right strategies for them.
mm. Because there's something about hyper focus, isn't
Mm-hmm.
certainly a function of ADHD is, total distraction all over the place and then super hyper focus, which, as you say, shuts out everything else. And those two kind of work in equal and opposite ways, don't they?
100%. Yeah. And it is very hyper focused as well for autistic people.
Mm, yeah. It's so interesting. The I'm thinking about a client of mine many moons ago who was in a state of anxiety, and he was on the spectrum, Asperger's diagnosis, and he a great deal of anxiety, and his father noticed that he had a startle reflex as a teenager. So, something it would suddenly be startled, which indicated that, he was in a high arousal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the father said to me, "Do you think it's connected to the games, the virtual reality games that we're playing?" And I said, "Well, tell me more about what are you playing?" And he said, "Well, we play together and we play these kind of war zone virtual realities." And I was like, "That's really interesting because to the brain, to the nervous system, it doesn't know the difference between the virtual reality and the external reality. So heart rate, sweating, pupils dilated because you're about to get murdered by some
Mm-hmm.
soldier who's waiting to ambush you, to the brain, that's real. And so, 25 minutes on of that sustained hyper arousal, sympathetic
Mm-hmm.
hyper arousal, it became the dominant system. And
Yep.
and I that taught me something because it made absolute sense. And it was actually the father who put the two things together. And I'm like, okay. So we worked with that.
Mm-hmm.
To bring balance back in, because it's not that we want to say, oh, that game is terrible or bad for you, but there's quantity and
Mm-hmm.
there's quality. So we want to, if you're going to do that kind of game, you need to have another kind of balancey game, and
Yeah.
recognizing and teaching the symptoms of sympathetic dominance as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to balancing the parasympathetic.
100%, yeah. Exactly. I've had similar, to be honest. I work with it as an individual case and understand, because I've had also complete the reverse of a young man, learned a lot from a virtual reality, playing different games
Yeah.
and quite a lot. And then when he was ready, he didn't use it anymore. However, yeah, it's the individual because I've experienced that. But no, and I don't know if you've experienced it, but also sometimes some of the children I've worked with, not sometimes, because able to understand reality from TV can be completely clouded. That things watching things like EastEnders or Coronation Street became their reality, and they were acting out certain games, and we're like, "Whoa, that's really not healthy." So we had to work on to say, "No, this is what we should do. How long we should watch it for?" And for that particular young person, we had to stop it completely till we know she was ready to be able to see a little bit and realize, "Oh, this is acting and this is real." So, it's genuinely per individual is how I take it.
Yeah. I I I wish more homes knew the impact of the background big emotions that are playing, whether that's in a virtual reality, on a game, whether it's in the
Mhm.
television, on a soap opera, as you mentioned. The more dramatic the soap operas are, the more
Mhm.
people's emotions resonate. And so they get that chance to feel those feelings of anger and hate and indignance and injustices and all of that resonance. But to small, pliable, suggestible brains, they're
Mhm.
experiencing the vocal tones. They don't even need to be watching it. They're experiencing the
Yeah.
sound waves of big emotions and um, long before words, that part of the brain is
Mhm.
processing, and that's probably not really helpful, But as I say, I'm Pollyanna looking for a perfect world.
One day, one day.
Recognizing, that I was smiling at somebody I was talking to recently who talked about always going to bed, listening to and falling asleep, listening to an audio um, recording of stories, and that's really cool. That's a really good thing because if you've got a nice soothing voice
Mhm.
that's rhythmic and calm, that makes good sense. And I said, what are you listening to? And it was Game of Thrones. And it's like, and I was like, oh, so just as your brain is going into that really calm, suggestible theta brain wave, super suggestible, there's talk about hatred and murder and deceit and okay, that's
Okay.
probably not the same
Yeah.
as looking at unicorns and fairies um and
True.
the magic of lighter topics
I agree.
outside the brain. So that's really great. Thank you, Asma, for that. There's a lot of nuggets that you've brought there from your work, and it's super that you're doing what you're doing. And is there anything that you would like to add or ask?
Honestly, no, just say thank you for giving the opportunity to speak about the topic I always enjoy. So,
Yeah,
yeah, thank you.
no, you're doing great work. Keep up the good work. And yeah. And where can people find you?
Oh, good question. I really should know this, don't I? And my website is www.achievablejourney.co.uk. And you can find me on Facebook, Instagram. To be honest, all the social is Achievable Journey or Asma Jacob.
Excellent. Okay. Well, what I'll do is I'll pop this in the whatever the thread is on YouTube, and thank you. And it's been lovely to talk to you. You're a happy brain coach, so you've done the happy brain training and you've brought some of the model
Hmm.
into your work, and you're also NLP trained. Yeah, all these skills all kind of come together and create this beautiful toolkit, don't they? So that we can help others to be better tomorrow than they were yesterday. So
100%.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Kay.